uh, Mrs. McClain, who is also the chair of our Republican House Conference.
Thank you.
She is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Mr. Brooks, I'd like to start with you, if that's okay. Obviously, we've talked about it at nauseam. Regulation, access to capital, et cetera, is very important. But I want to talk about, if we could, some action items. Chairman Hill's Main Street Capital Access Act, right? I believe it will lower costs for local community banks and rural institutions by lowering compliance costs for banks certified as low risk and healthy, right? We've gone from roughly 14,000 banks in the 1900s to 4,200 banks today. I'd like to hear your opinion on how much of that decline in the banking industry is due to overregulation versus normal market conditions. Because sometimes we have we say we're capitalists, but I don't know if I really like the free market. So I'd like your opinion on that.
Well, I appreciate the question, Congresswoman. Mergers and consolidation usually happen when you need to spread your cost across a larger asset base, right? And so if compliance and other non-productive activities, and when I say non-productive, I mean non-revenue producing activities, become a major burden, you have to put them inside of a larger institution so that you have the revenue base to support the compliance. So there's no question that's one of the factors that's led to the shrinkage in banking. The other thing as a side point that's led to the shrinking in the number of banks, of course, is that at some point we stopped chartering new banks. We went about 15 years post-financial crisis where we chartered one bank or zero banks a year at the federal level. Previously, the number was in the double digits every single year. Compliance is a huge burden. It really is. And the point of the Main Street Act, and one of the reasons I applaud it so much, is because small banks don't have the kind of complex operations, and they typically don't support the kind of systemic, risks that JP Morgan does. And so holding in the same set of stress testing environments, which are obviously different for small banks, but those kinds of things for small banks really don't make sense.
Appreciate that. Second is, you've said, and I thought this was very interesting, the Dodd-Frank made compliance so big and so expensive, that it's too small for banks to succeed. I thought that was a really interesting quote. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, what Dodd-Frank...
We've always heard, oh my gosh, it's too big to fail, but too small to succeed, I think is...
Yeah, it's 100% true. So what Dodd-Frank did is, and I think some of this was unintentional and some of it was just an overcorrection in a crisis, right? But now we have history, so we know what was good and what was bad about it. Dodd-Frank almost singled out housing finance for negative treatment compared to almost everything else. And the reason we did that is because of this belief somehow that the financial crisis was exclusively a mortgage crisis. And the idea was, well, we have these long-dated mortgages and these short-dated deposits, and that mismatch creates inherent risk. So you have to hold enormous capital against your mortgage book. And if you're a small bank, if you're a sub-$1 billion, let's say, community bank on Main Street, USA, like in my hometown, you can't hold that kind of capital.
It's just not feasible.
Right. And so what happened? What happened is all of those loans got sold to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and banks no longer held any credit risk.
I appreciate it. Mr. O'Leary, if I could switch to you for a moment. Mark Carney has twice called for reducing the dollar's role as the world's reserve currency. Once in 2019 and then last month at Davos. What threat, in your opinion, does he pose, or does that pose to the dollar's global status? Can you comment on that?
You're talking about Carney's speech at Davos?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I actually believe, as an optimist, I'm a Canadian citizen, I'm Irish, and my kids are Americans. I have a foot in both economies. There's a huge opportunity to work out a Canadian U.S. situation to the benefit of both countries in a different way. The problem is, you saw recently Modi got a deal done, finally, just days ago. That was done because Modi met with Trump privately. We need this now with Carney and Trump. We're in a bad place. And I'm saying that this makes no sense, and I think the only way to get it fixed, because we know the president is a very transactional individual, and I endorse his policies. I don't get involved in politics. I never made money doing that. I'm a policy guy. What we need here is to deal with everything you just said is to have Carney or Trump find a place without anybody and no cameras, not a Zelensky-type meeting, just the two of them, go work it out. And there's so much opportunity because Canada has all the natural resources the largest economy on earth needs right here. And they're right beside each other.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Could be a win-win for both countries.
Gentlelady's
Yeah.
time has expired.